Kusuzangpo. This is how we say hello from where I come from. I'm from Bhutan, this tiny country in the Himalayas, and the outfit you see here is a national dress of Bhutan. Right now, when I said Bhutan, some of you who might have already heard of Bhutan would have probably immediately associated Bhutan with happiness. And that's probably because Bhutan is well known for its philosophy on happiness. It's funny, when I first came to Green School, and when I introduced myself as someone from Bhutan, people would immediately react like, that's so cool, and ask me questions like, how is it like living in a land of happiness? And are you guys happy all the time? And, well, are you happy all the time? You have to admit, these are really hard questions to answer in a very casual conversation. So I would just give them vague responses that didn't really count as an answer. And because I didn't have a proper way to answer these questions. And these small instances, they really stuck with me. So when the time came for me to choose a Greenstone topic, I chose happiness. Because I thought it would be really cool if I could find a way to answer these questions. And the next time someone asks me those questions, I'll be ready for it with an answer. I first started off by researching gross national happiness, GNH. Gross national happiness is a philosophy that our fourth king founded, and it expresses how the well-being and the happiness of the people should be prioritized over GDP and how much money a country makes. And this philosophy is supported by 4 pillars: environment, culture, economic development, and government. Next, I looked into the World Happiness Report, WHR. The World Happiness Report is a report that has data and information compiled from happiness surveys that have been conducted throughout the world. And this year's WHR focused on 3 things: social environment, urban happiness, and natural environment. Next, I looked into the Balinese philosophy of Trita Karana, which literally translates to the 3 causes of prosperity and happiness. And this philosophy centered around the balance and harmony between human and God, human and nature, and human and human. But, oh wait, sorry. And since these 3 concepts are so similar, I decided to combine all 3 and categorize them into 3 different factors. As you can see here, social factors, which have cultural, community, society, and government; nature, how it affects us, or how we can preserve it, and our connection with nature; and financial, because whether we like it or not, the world runs on money, and access to good education, good health, luxuries, and services, all of them are dependent on money. And these 3 factors, as you can see here, they influence our happiness, our state of happiness, and they equip us with a space in which it's a conducive environment where we can pursue our own happiness. But at this point, I felt like I was rather disconnected from my own project. I was focusing too much on the happiness of other people and the happiness of the general society. And I felt like I was missing from my own project. So I moved away from that. I looked into what other people had done to be happy. I listened to podcasts about how to become happy. I read this book about how this lady tried to find happiness by changing the little things around her. And through that, I realized that in addition to the 3 factors I mentioned earlier, there was another factor that I had completely neglected: a person's characteristics, their traits, their personality, attitude, or in other words, individualism. With that thought in mind, I decided to have my own little happiness project, Operation Let's Become Happy. It's a bit obvious, but it does the job. So, the first step, I wanted to observe myself, my state of happiness. So I kept this journal where I recorded when I was happy, what made me happy, and what I needed to become happy. But as soon as I started this, COVID-19 appeared out of nowhere and forced us all into isolation. And I thought, I admit I'm an introvert and a bit unsocial at times, and I have a small circle of friends, but I'm okay with that. In fact, I'm even proud of it. And it's because I had this weird, bizarre pride that, well, I thought I was immune to loneliness. I thought since I didn't need to be around people all the time, I thought I was immune to loneliness. I can't be lonely at all. So that led me to this bizarre pride in which I kind of convinced myself I wasn't lonely, even though I really was. And at that point, I was facing so many emotions that I didn't want to face. I was learning so many things about myself that I didn't want to acknowledge. Can't say I really like my project at this point. So on to the next step, implementing action. So basically, I wanted to do things that would make me happier and a little bit cheer me up and make me a little bit more happier. I hate to admit it, but at this point I was really behind on my Greenstone, and well, I thought, listen, it was really stressing me out. So I thought if I worked on my Greenstone, then I could like get rid of all of the extra stress and anxiety and become a little bit more happier. So I deprived myself of any joyous activities. I completely focused on my work. I was going to do it. I was going to finish my Greenstone quickly and then try to become more happier. But that failed miserably because, well, I was too bummed out to work on a topic like happiness. So my next brilliant idea was basically focus, just do everything I can to be happy. I watched anime, I bought myself a new video game, bought a mountain load of junk food. I started reading a book series, I explored my creative side. It was all fun and it was all like fun and good, but thing is, the new problem was I was too busy having fun to actually do work. My next solution, create a schedule, a daily schedule that divided time equally between work and play. But then I found out I had terrible self-control and self-discipline because I was too, I couldn't even stick to the schedule for more than 2 days. So there was a question of work or happiness. Which one should I focus more on? But my work was on happiness, so it was very confusing. So I chose happiness. And my new solution was basically do whatever I feel like doing and just hope for the best. It's a miracle that I even finished my project on time. As I mentioned earlier, I had this weird pride about not being lonely that convinced me that I wasn't lonely, and because of that, whenever I wanted to reach out to my family or my friends or message them or call them, something inside me was stopping me from calling them because, well, if I wasn't lonely, why was I trying to call them? So because of that, I was subconsciously pulling myself away from my family and friends. So after I realized what I was doing, I completely changed my tune and I decided to make this resolution of calling my family or my friends at least once a day. And because of that, I had a proper talk with my parents, and I realized that by being sad and pushing everyone away, I was hurting them, and I was making them really worried. So I decided to. So whenever I called them now, I would put on a brave face, smile, and say, "I'm happy and healthy. Don't worry about me." And the strange thing is, when I started doing that, I actually became a little bit more happier because I was setting their minds at ease. I was easing their worries, and it made me happy. The one thing I've been dreading during this entire project was implementing positive thinking. So, first, I had to accept my circumstances. Despite my many efforts to try to go home, well, I'm still here, so far away from home. And that's the situation. I have to accept it. Next, adopt a less sulky attitude with less wallowing in self-pity and sorrow, and try to be a little bit more cheerful. And silver linings. Things could have been a lot more worse for me, but it isn't worse. And I should be grateful for that. I am grateful for that. And there's no point in me dwelling in all these circumstances that I can't control. These are all out of my control. So rather than focusing on that, well, rather than dwelling on these unpleasant things, I should dwell on more pleasant things, like the new anime episodes that came out last week. And lastly, a little hope. a little, just have some hope that one day things will go back to normal and everything will be all right, and maybe I'll finally be able to go back home someday. So, what was the point of my project? Well, after a year of working with the topic of happiness, I've gained some familiarity with it. So here's how I think about happiness. There are two types of happiness. There is long-term happiness and short-term happiness. Long-term happiness is like this happiness that's sustained over a long period of time, and it's assured by stability and security, and people are free to pursue their own individual happiness. Whereas short-term happy, it's those bursts of positive emotions you feel that was caused by an immediate catalyst or cause, and it's heavily reliant on your happy hormones like dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, serotonin, and they're normally released when you are doing things you enjoy or spending time with people you like. Because of this project, I realized I am so blessed. I'm so very, very lucky, because conditions for my long-term happiness are already set in place. I was born to a wonderful and caring family. I was born in a country blessed with nature, in a beautiful country that's ruled by a fair and gracious king, where the government prioritizes the happiness and the well-being of the people over capita per income. And I had the amazing opportunity to spend the last 3 years in such an incredible school. So I am truly blessed. Well, and for my short-term happy, I'm a person with simple needs. So as long as I get to spend time with my family, friends, read books, play games, watch anime, I'm pretty happy. But my happiness project wasn't all fun and games. There were times when I regretted starting a happiness project. When I had asked myself the question of, am I happy? I was forced to confront feelings and emotions I didn't want to acknowledge. I had to learn things about myself that I wish I didn't knew. And there were those times when I was consumed by feelings of helplessness, grief, frustration, anxiety, uncertainty. The lockdown happened. Everyone was going home. I wanted to go home, but I couldn't. All the airports were closed. And then I was expected to sit down and work on a happiness project when I was feeling anything but happy. Well, at times it was hard. The happiness project was hard at times. But now, when I look back at these things, I realized that this entire project was an opportunity for me to learn about myself, to learn about my flaws, the little things that were making me unhappy, to work on them. Before I started the project, I thought I was happy. Then during the project, I realized the truth wasn't quite that simple. There were flaws, there were chances for me to become happy, but I wasn't taking those chances because of my own little habits, presumptions, perceptions, actions. But now, I'm a little bit more aware of them, and I can do something to change it. I'm really glad that I chose this topic, this happiness project. And yes, I don't regret it at all. Coming back to my title, if you're happy and you know it, don't clap your hands yet. You might be wrong. But that's okay, because acknowledging the truth and then moving forward is the first step. After that, well, your happiness is in your hands. Trust me. Thank you for listening to our talk, and